I'm really excited today, and it's maybe a little bit confusing for some of y'all because my name is Demetri and Demetri B, and today I'm talking to another Demetri B. So I'll try to hopefully not make it too confusing for you. Demetri Burke uses mixed media, primarily oil paint, to express narratives of identity and culture on canvas. His art reflects his upbringing as well as his current experiences. His constant examination of themes is visible in his findings. Black like the skin, still like the clouds, and hopeful like his mother's smile. Burke is a young artist residing in Atlanta, Georgia, with a BFA in studio art from Georgia State University. His work has been shown nationally in galleries, museums, publications, and online exhibitions. Highlights include his 2022 debut solo exhibition titled And Then We Heard the Thunder. Welcome, Demetri. I'm very excited to speak with you finally.
Hi, Demetri. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, how are you? How's everything going?
I'm doing pretty good. Today was like slightly busy, but now it's like calming down, so I'm doing just fine.
Good. I'm glad we caught you right at the right time of the day.
Definitely.
Yeah, I just spoke about your solo exhibition. Can you tell us all about that? I understand it was in January.
Yes. So I just recently had my debut solo exhibition entitled And Then We Heard the Thunder. This solo exhibition was at Mint Gallery in Atlanta. And I think with that solo exhibition, I was concerned about like desire and intimacy and kind of like those things kind of being like withheld from like these characters I was building from like my own personal experiences, but also like from the audience as well. And to do that, I was thinking about like the nature of portraiture, the nature of like oil painting itself, and also a lot of like Black references that I was finding in between that time of like 2020 up till now, talking about like desire, but also talking about like grief and masculinity. So those things, those references included Toni Morrison's Jazz, and then we heard The Thunder by Richard Bruce Nugent,
Mm.
Looking for Langston by Isaac Julian, and a bunch of like other things like poems and like movies. I was like, okay, this is interesting. What's getting people going? Like, where are people like finding their desire? Is that even good and stuff? And just trying to figure that out in like the solo show with like 9 various pieces of artwork like spread throughout the gallery.
That's awesome. So for that, it seems like your references were primarily literary, but also, popular culture, film. Can you talk a little bit more about the references? And I did notice, some of the titles, and then I noticed some of the things like Nina Simone appearing
Yeah.
in some of your works.
Yeah, I think in general, I'm interested in like popular culture and also like what was the popular culture in the past and stuff, like what I was growing up with, what I was interested in, like how was the world created around me versus like how the world was created around other people and like showing that legacy of time. And then also I guess thinking about like Looking for Langston by Isaac Julian, which was a movie
Mhm.
like in the 80s that was like working with like this legacy of time and this like history of desire moving from like the Harlem Renaissance to like the 80s. So thinking about like um I don't know, like these turns of the century, wherever that century was, what was interesting for those people and like the humanity of it itself to draw back the icon and like think about it as like people coming together. I think that kind of interests me. And then also like the aesthetic of like the work as well, like what fonts people are using, what colors
Mm.
people were using, what the photography was like looking like at that time. So that catches my eye, and I try to like emulate that with the artwork, or put it like directly onto the artwork and be like, okay, I like this, let me showcase it as well.
Oh my goodness, I love that. That is awesome. It's definitely going to get into one of the questions that I have, but I'm gonna table that one for a little bit later. Before we get into the like the deep dive of your practice any further, where are you right now? Where are you joining us from?
So I am at home. I'm in my
Oh, okay.
yeah. Yeah. You can kind of see like some paintings that I kind of like have in storage and stuff. But yeah, I am joining you at home, which is in the Metro Atlanta area.
The Metro Atlanta area. So this is not your studio right now, so you probably don't want to give us a full tour, right?
Yeah, this is not my studio.
uh,
My studio is like messy and stages like mess and stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let that get cleaned up later. just be right here.
that means that it's an active space. Before we went live, you were telling me about all of these residencies that you participated in. So you're currently in a residency, and you just came from another one, right?
Yes. So I am currently in a studio residency where I have a studio space for a year at Mint Gallery, which was where I debuted my solo show. And I just came back from the Hambidge Center residency. So that's like up in like North Georgia, is right next to like the mountains. It borders like the Carolinas. So it's definitely like a different change of pace from like the city life and stuff is real like rural and like connected to nature and just like easygoing, hearing like the air and the water at the same time. So
Mm.
those are the two residencies that are in my like stratosphere at the moment.
That sounds beautiful. That sounds really inspiring. I'm always just really curious. Some of our attendees aren't even sure. Sometimes people aren't even sure what an artist residency is, what that entails. I also have never participated in an artist residency, and so I'm really curious what has this experience done for your art over this last year of being in a separate space, also being given resources, a venue to show your work. How has that changed your thinking about your art?
I think residencies, like the most important factor is the resource of it itself. And then with that resource, you understand how hellish it is not to have like a certain resource, to not have a space, to not have like paint, to not have like proper lighting, to not have like a sense of like peace or calmness, or just anywhere to like interact with it. You realize how paramount like some of these things are, and you realize how art is usually made under any scenario, and like in this, I guess in any day and age, a lot of art is made in despite of, and it's like learning
Hmm.
how to do these practices in despite of, and it's also like learning where your resources are, and also that people are interested in your practice, that it has validity outside of your own self, and that people are paying attention to it, and that people are willing to support it. And I don't know, people like even this, like I thought this is so cool, especially coming from Demetri. I think that's really sweet. And I think what it's done for my art, I guess in specifics, it's allowed me to work larger because I can, because I have the space to do so. And then also giving me the time to think, I would say, which is a resource in itself. So those are
Hmm.
like the two biggest things I would say. And also
That's
being connected with artists.
Yeah, 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 definitely, right? Getting that community of other creative people, even if their practice is completely different than yours.
Mm.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And just hearing that you just came back from the mountains and listening to the water and the air sounds amazing.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Yeah. So with your practice, we talked about this last year, but this whole last 3 years has been a roller coaster ride for so many different people. First we were in shelter in place, then pretty immediately the calls for Black lives
Mm.
intensified. We're always there, but they intensified. Um, and then it sounds like pretty much on the tail end of that, then you went into residencies. How has, if you were to think about this whole last 3 years, you know, in terms of the themes of your art, the maybe even the techniques and the materials that you're thinking about, how has your work um, changed over this last 3 years?
I think my work has been interested in like documentation and kind of archiving like certain stories. I think it has always had like a subtle nature to that. And I think with the art I've been doing recently has had like a level of like loss to it. And that being like the subtleness of it, like instead of like rendering everything, some things aren't rendered. So things are like kind of like disappearing. Having like quotes from like Langston Hughes, where he's interested in like loss and absence. Thinking about like Marlon Riggs and like his like take on like absence and stuff. So I think that's played a part into it. Also, I guess I would say like resourcefulness. Some of like I had like some collages early during the start of the pandemic, and that was all from just smaller pieces or like discarded artworks that I hadn't like used in a minute, or like a sketchbook I hadn't used. I mean, like what the hell? There's so much stuff in my bedroom. Like I have to like get rid of it and I have to like do something with this. I have to make this important. I have to find my own therapy in like this practice. So it is about, I think directly thinking about like how was I going to I guess find my therapy in all of this and like articulate it in like physical forms, and also like this displaying like that absence in like a subtle way. So I think that's like the answer.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. And you're doing it in such a beautiful way at the same time. It's, you know, I will pull up images and we'll walk through some of those images, but they're very haunting, moody, but beautiful. Like all of your work has. Um, I guess you said it. You said it well. Like, kind of thinking about what was the word that you said? Like that desire. I also think there's some kind of, I don't know what to say. Like there's we'll get into it when we get into looking at the work closer. But I think all of the figures have a sense of peace and a sense of calm, a sense of self possession. But there's a direct connection with all of them. Like I'm like, I want to know these people. I'm gonna circle back real quick. We got a question from someone on Facebook, and I think it's appropriate to ask this now. Angelo Martinez is asking, from all of these pivotal eras that have influenced your work, what's the central zeitgeist that spoke to you the most?
um I think most recently, and the thing I've like been coming back to is Toni Morrison, and like her just being interested in like telling like a really like complete story, not being bold enough to think, okay, what was going on, especially in like jazz, where it was
Hmm.
covering um like themes, like again like themes of like what what was the beloved and stuff, and like themes of like what was going to happen when you didn't get that. So for her to uncover that, for her to go like deep down into the human psyche, and her to do that through like a Black lens, to do it like during like the everyday ordinary people of like the Harlem Renaissance, that like really spoke to me. And also she's really clever, so you can like reread her like 3 or 4 times and get like a new message out of it. So it was just so easy to keep like pulling and pulling from like a source like her.
I love, because I'm also really into text and double entendre, and I don't even know what's beyond the double entendre, triple, quadruple. Where words are just so beautifully assembled, and then you can get so many different meanings from them. And I love that you're then taking that and then translating into the visual form, which then also has, just as many, layers of meaning that you can kind of carve behind an image, or the multiplicity of the images that you use, as well, and materials. I love that. I want to jump back into your history, and then I'm going to start showing some of your images so we can talk about those. But as an artist, what compelled you? When was that moment you were like, "Hey, this art thing, this is for me"? Can you go back into your memory banks and recall maybe the first piece that you made, or just that moment where you were like, "Hey, I've got this. I've got the calling to
Yeah.
to do this," and enough to where you started to pursue it.
So for me, I guess I've just always been making art. So it's just like second nature. Figuring out the specifics was always like the crazy part of it. But the thing that was like so defined was the fact that I was taking a pencil and doing something with it. And it wasn't always like a piece of paper. Like my mom remembers like me drawing on the walls, and she just never stopped me. So that was that was like it. And then me, my brother, and my father, we would I do like drawing competitions and see who wanted to draw the best. I was also like kind of competitive. So I was like, okay, I'm going to master how to like draw this stick figure, master how to draw like this cartoon. And I don't know, art has a lot is communication. So when you're like quiet or like shy in like classes and stuff, some easy way to get people to talk to you is like drawing a cartoon that they like. And that just graduated into like having a solo show in Atlanta and like doing like things and like gallery stuff. So innately, I just think I didn't want to take that pencil out of my hand. So whatever I could do,
Mm.
like keep it with me, that was like what I wanted to do.
That is incredible, and I love that your mom said, "Go ahead, draw on the wall.
Yeah.
It's all good." You
Yeah.
must you must have been really good from an early age.
I don't know.
Are either of your parents or someone else in your family, have they pursued art? Did you have like a role model?
No, not really. I think my parents are interested in like me having like a fun childhood. So that was like taking me to like museums and stuff. I have an older brother. He's like a year and a couple of quarters older than me, and he's also
Oh,
into like art. So it's like we had like the art bug. I don't know where it like exactly came from, but I also think like the history, like I wasn't necessarily like raised around like an art practice where it's like you do this, you go to school, and then you get to galleries and museum representation. But like art was like all around me. Like there's certain pictures that was in like my grandma's home that was found in like my mom's home that could be found in like somebody else's like aunt's home or one of my friends like home, and that tradition of like black art and that collection of
mhm.
black art. And then to grow up in like Atlanta where as an adult I'm like meeting these people that had like a foundation with the artwork in my home. And like I think that was a story that was going on behind me. That was like where I saw some of my influences and inspirations and saw like where it was going to be, where it was possible for people like 20 or 30 years before me, and them like laying down that foundation and then meeting them as like adults and stuff. So that's been cool. That felt like really like novelesque in a some type of sense.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Congrats to your parents. And they've got two artists on their hands now. Yeah, I love that was encouraged, and I'm starting to hear that more and more from artists, that it's like whether someone already had that path, in advance of the artist, that I'm speaking to, there was that love and that support and that nurturing from the parents. I had the opposite. My parents were like, "You're doing what? You're not living in our house. How are you going to pay the bills?" So I love seeing that. Not everyone's parents. My dad's probably watching. Love you, but yeah, you did that to me. No, you didn't. I'm about to start sharing some images. right now. Uh, and I don't have all of them because you sent me so many amazing images. So I kind of took the opportunity to kind of curate the ones that I really wanted to speak about. So yeah, I'm starting with this one, and I felt like silk.
Yes. So that title actually comes from Waiting to Exhale. It's like I'm forgetting,
Hmm.
I know, right? So I'm forgetting like all like the specifics of like these characters' names, but this was done like in 2020 at the start of the pandemic. So just like watching a bunch of like TV shows and like movies all at once and like figuring out like what was interesting and what was nice. So, you know, Waiting to Exhale is like comedy drama focused on like these Black women. And there's a specific line where I guess their exploration is like what's going to make them happy. Is it like being by themselves? Is it like cutting their hair? Is it finding the man that they want? Is it standing up to the man that's kind of like opposed to them? So I think that line kind of like hit it so much, and I felt like Silk, and that was like that character, and kind of like finding her level of desire and intimacy that she wanted. It's a funny scene. Again, I'm forgetting these
That must
specific.
be Loretta Devine. That sounds like some. I haven't seen the movie in 20 years, but
Okay, I can look it up right now. It's not Loretta Devine's character.
ah,
It's the one, to spoil this movie, it's the one, yes.
you want spoiled? I'm like, someone's got it.
Yes, Robin Stokes, and he did it right, and I felt like Silk. And when I looked at him, I didn't care anymore that he wasn't Mr. Universe. So her, that character, Robin, it was Robin. Her pursuit of like finding her dream man, and it's the kind that scene is like a little comedic, but that line, you know, taken out of context, is like pure poetry, and I just like that idea of fulfillment and stuff. So articulating that and then putting it in like this image, which has like I guess something that like feels nostalgic, something that is interested in like formalness and like people like getting ready, sitting down. So in different stages of like some formalness and different stages of like rest, relaxation, exhaustion, and like this nostalgic like image in the corner of like children kind of looking away and like looking at the audience, at their future, at their past.
Oh my goodness, I love it. It's today. Thank you so much for finding the quote.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do it. It's incredible. Yeah, I mean, because with this piece also, I think I kind of told you. I mean, and it was one of the things I was going to get to, but I feel like at certain points, especially over this last your more recent work, the figure is starting to dissolve away, and you're not focused on capturing every detail and photorealism, right? And we're going to get to a few pieces, down the road, a couple of slides down, where you clearly show and demonstrate that you can capture the likeness of a person, you know, and make it look like a photograph. But you're choosing in these moments to kind of like not let all those details come through, and you're leaving a lot to our imagination, and then you're also mixing in all of these other references, other scenes that are kind of mixed in or collaged in some cases, towards this mood. And so it's interesting for me that this actually is earlier than some of the pieces where, you know like one of the ones we used for the marketing material,
Yeah.
where you're it's clearly a young man who's standing here with the moon above his head. Can you talk about your use of letting us see everything, and then in an instance like this where it's really you're just focusing on the mood and you're bringing us a vibe, really, and
Yeah. I think it's kind of about like agency to some extent. Like there's so much talk about like Black portraiture and like Blackness and like what these
Hmm.
Black people are doing interested in. And I think I guess to explore that agency is letting like the piece itself decide that rather than like an audience like figure that out for themselves. So giving it to the painting itself. Also in technical aspects, it deals with time as well. Like being an artist, especially like right now, it's like so much of it is like on these deadlines, on these time schedules. So it is like figuring out how to be versatile, figuring out how to be like diverse and stuff, and figuring out how to like stretch your hand, and then realizing what happens after that, like what becomes important, what can become like a resource, and what becomes like a way to like tell a story. So sometimes like in that process I learned it was more effective to like draw things back, and it could like command an audience to like feel another type of emotion when things weren't there, and that made everything sometimes it made things more interesting, what was gone and why was it gone. So just doing that and being like, okay, I think I gotta like get myself out of this, because innately a lot of times I'm like, okay, I need to like draw this as realistic as possible, but at the same time it's like letting the piece decide what it wants to be can kind of, for me, make it more interesting, kind of take my voice out of it and just let it talk for itself.
That's beautiful. I won't even ask any follow up because I love the whole sentiment. I love that whole concept. Um, does not want to let me go forward. And then, so like I know the beat of my heart and the taste of my spit, anger is what I do best. Woo!
Yes. So again, this is coming from like the start of the pandemic. So just like literally just finding anything I could that could like make me figure out what was going on in the world. So I was like watching like Marlon Riggs films. So he was like making like films working with like other Black queer men during like the AIDS epidemic, and he was like documenting like that time period and like documenting his anger. So I think that I'm forgetting specifically what
Is that
movie.
tongues untied? Is that
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's Essex Hemphill who that's a quote from, and that might be there might be like the full quote might have like another line, but that was like interesting, like that idea of anger, knowing it so naturally because of like the body you inhabit in a world like this, and what's expected of you, and the collage elements of it. Was thinking about something that was bright, using that bright color scheme against something like black, so having like that intensity and that visceral nature, thinking of like the beat of a heart and like what that feels like without using like a color red, without using I guess so much of like a red splatter, and that energy of it all. And different collages, so like a photograph, illustration, glitter, and then found images, like going through like old manga like books and like placing it on there and just trying to compile like the whole story with all these different references, and letting the text do a lot of work. And also you see like this theme of like arches and stuff, which
yes? I definitely wanted to ask, or like a portal or a doorway, window.
yeah, so and because it's such like a universal theme, but it has like so many different ways it can go, so many different ways it can be interpreted. So repeating that imagery, because I was thinking like what was that universal theme that I kept seeing? So, and it was always like I think that was something I could come back to, like a window, a door, like the shape of a hoodie, like the arch of a basketball court, or like a grave site. So all these like
Oh
different,
wow.
yeah, so all these different things like being repeated, so that legacy of a shape and what it was going to be expected to be, and just playing upon that as much as I could with like these type of work. So that work and the work before it was all like made at the same time. Like some pieces were like placed over here, placed over here. So they're
Mm.
all like they're all being touched at the same moment and being tried to figure out at the same moment.
Yeah, and I know we don't have the image of it, but the grill, the gold grill, repeats in another piece as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. So the grills, and I think the grills, I do like to place something on the very top, usually of like a composition. Sometimes that's the grills, and in this sense, it's like the moon. So with this one, it was doing like the arc shape again, placing like the figure fully into it, having like the figure be the narrative rather than like these subtle collages. I was doing so many things at once, so just boiling it down to like one image, and thinking about like again like rest and relaxation, and that teetering between exhaustion, and I
Mm.
guess which one was kind of gonna like win out. And I don't know, in this time period, but also like any time period, like that end of the day type of feeling where you hold your head up to the sky after something's been done, and just allowing yourself like a moment of breath.
Yeah, that is a great question today. Is the print still available? Because I did see that on your Instagram, and then did someone get a chance to purchase this piece also, the original?
Yes. So the original, the original was placed in an auction. That auction was the greenhouse auction, which has a collaboration with Serious Art. So that one was bought at the auction, which I'm really grateful for. So I made prints for it as well. So if anybody wants to, they can get a hand on the print and just have it in their home. But like all these pieces are like so significant to me, and the print itself is like so significant to me. Like every single thing I've done has had my hand in it. So like me like
Uh,
searching the paper, finding out like, okay, this image of this image looks good, or like this scan looks better, like how is this going to be like fully realized, and how like taking on Photoshop or on Illustrator, I mean like, okay, this is the best quality product for anybody who wants it in their home, anybody who wants to have an audience with it physically, whether that was the original or this print that's on my website, available now.
Awesome, awesome. So they did put the link in the chat for folks. I encourage you to go get that link. I'm just really sad that I didn't know that there was an auction going on, and I had to miss out. Um, Angelo, I love it. Angelo. I'm here for you. Here with us on Facebook. Thank you for bringing that over today. Says, I never thought of archways as a transitional shape, and now I can't unsee it. It's genius. I totally agree. Yeah, as you're saying that, yeah, I'm starting to think of all the things that this could be, that are all unified into, let's see, do I have this on here? I think I do. I don't have it yet, but it's coming up. Oh, wait, I'm going to go back. I'm sorry, I skipped forward. This is not one of the images you sent to me, but I had to have this one because I love your versatility. I love how you're not, um, even though painting is your primary medium, you are not strictly a painter. You allow yourself to work through multiple media and multiple formats to get whatever you need to get out there. So can we first talk about this piece because I love it.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is a great tie-in to the painting that we just saw with like the male figure. So again, this is like that arch being repeated in like that basketball shape. And it's like semi installation, semi like photograph, and just like figuring that out. Like I said, I like to be versatile, and sometimes that's through like the paint itself, or just like you said, any process can like tell a story. So I don't like to be still with any process. I like to explore everything, have like a range of everything, and just to kind of break away from like that stereotype of like this. Like if this art is looking like this, if this is an artist, this artwork has to look like this
Mhm,
painting has to
mhm.
look like this and this, because that is the thought process for a lot of people. It isn't always the thought process for me, and allowing that freedom to take shape and to move away from like that preconceived notion of like this has to be this way. So growing up, I think basketball played like such an important like role in like life and stuff. So my father was a basketball player. I played basketball pretty badly in like high school and like middle
Are we
school.
the same person? Come on now.
We're so in sync. We're so in sync. I'm so happy. But just like thinking about like again finding a story in that, because it is there's a story to be found, like this hero's tale, this sense of like accomplishment. And also there's like this nature of it that can be called into question, like this idea of like what you're allowed to dream, like what you're allowed to think. And that can be kind of like isolating. And it gives you to some extent a dream, like this golden idea of what's to be expected. And that dream sometimes being like a cage, and thinking about like that in like basketball, and thinking about that in like ways of like masculinity, and thinking about that in like ways like Black people are supposed to be like showing up, and how that is supposed to look like. So taking the basketball, having like that singular symbol of it in like that free throw lane. So that moment of isolation, that moment where the game is decided upon what you do next, everything kind of like relies on you, and that turning point where everybody's like looking at you, but you are still in this moment alone. So just playing with those type of themes. And he's resting in there in the center of it. So again, thinking about like rest, and thinking about like I guess in the other images of his, this also has like that literally like a dreamlike quality to it. And so
Mhm.
that being like carried out throughout the work.
Oh my gosh, it's freaking brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you for letting me include this, because yeah, I had to, and I needed to know more about it because it's just beautiful.
Thank you.
Just from that, but then for you to explain it, it's so much deeper. And oh, I love it. Please make a print of this one so I can also I'm gonna collect all your work. Um, yeah, and then this piece, this one is just like wow. Yeah, it is very much like I can see your hand, but it's almost like I'm looking at the work of another artist.
Hmm.
um Today, and I have one of our favorite artists, William H. Johnson, who famously just changed his style whenever he wanted to. Angelo Angela says, voguing on the basketball court, another form of alternative masculinity. Ooh, wait,
Yeah,
did you have voguing?
I,
There was.
I think that pose looks a little bit like that.
Uh,
I can see that. I can definitely see that, which is really cool, having that thought process with it.
oh, maybe we'll have to revisit that with that. I want to hear from other people who are out here.
Yeah.
Angela, you're just giving it all. I love it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Angela. We may need to like work together. We may need to like
Right,
collab.
right. Yeah, this piece, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, it's like clouds when the sun is setting or rising. And then at another point, like I kind of took it back. I was like, maybe it's a volcano. It also reminds me of a volcano exploding because of the color, of the clouds kind of billowing. Where were you working out with this one? And then there's
Okay.
that patch of the document that we can't fully read.
Yes. So with this one, I've like always been interested in like clouds, like and I think there is an idea of like landscape and like domesticness in my work, and using like really symbols to kind of communicate that with like the figure, and with the arch where it's like that sky. So taking like the figure out and just like doing that sky. The title of this piece is "In His Presence Forgetfulness Felt Like Pollen," which comes from like Jazz by Toni Morrison. So that piece is about like absence, and like people like going away and stuff, and or that specific test is about absence, people going away, specifically like this male figure like coming and going, and ideas of like masculinity, this adventurous nature of like men and kind of the way that the circumstance of that of like him being gone, him not being present. So I wanted to draw like a portrait and where like the figure is absent. And I was also thinking about like anger and so many things. So it's real subtle. It's like real subconscious. So the clouds are like rising up and they have like an aggressive nature to it, the way it's kind of like cropped. Sometimes people think it's like an explosion. And I think
Mm-hmm.
my hand, the painterliness of it feels a little like has like a little level of like action to it rather than it being like calm and stuff. So thinking about like that rising of anger and kind of like how that plays out, sometimes that kind of like feels like a cloud of it like billowing and billowing and billowing and seeing if it's going to explode, or more so oftentimes than not just like rising down and like fading away. Maybe we'll see it like another day or not. And then that level of like action, almost like this violence being communicated through like these torn images at the very bottom, where I show like the book cover to the reference or the book cover to And Then We Heard the Thunder, which is my title that I'm like using for my debut solo show. I might have like misspoke and said the wrong author for it. And just to be clear, And Then We Heard the Thunder is by John Oliver Killens, which is a book about like Black people going to war. And and he was like approaching it from like a really like masculine like point of view, and what was important for men, and that idea of like dealing with like their importance as like Black men, what they were being told to be important, which was like be like a soldier and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That history, and then underneath it is Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is like a self-help book. It's ripped apart. So if you know it, you know it, and it
Mm-hmm.
pays to like be there in person, like really like look at it and get up to it to have like that moment of discovery. So that's like a self-help book. And again, that's ideas a lot about masculinity and like what makes a man important. In that sense, it was about money, and then we had to done there. It was about like power, masculinity, your presence in society, and ideas of like, I mean, Toni Morrison, from that same quote, like her male figure, where he's like coming and going, and what was important for him. And then again, just those ideas of anger, things coming together, but also being absent, this anticipation for what was going to happen next, and not getting that moment at all. Whether that was you not getting the money from Rich Dad Poor Dad, you having a realization of maybe this war wasn't for you, and when with the book And Then We Heard the Thunder, or your father not being there after he just gave you like a Christmas gift. So that
Mm-hmm.
idea of it. But yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
little and subconscious. You know, it's kind of hard to like look at clouds and be like, oh, so that's about
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, it's something I'll probably like revisit. I love looking at clouds. So just for them to like communicate a story to me is really cool. So and this is an idea I kept doing and kept trying to find like what cloud is going to work, what cloud feels angry enough to like kind of like tell my theme, and what colors will I use to kind of communicate that.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah. And I think it's really telling that is like the longer that I stare at it, the more that I'm like, it could be this serene, you know, the flutes are playing and birds are singing,
Yeah.
as the sun is rising thing, or the sun is going down, or there is an explosion. And I think the drips also, you know, convey that sense and that energy. Kind of going back, we've looked at a few different examples of your work using various media. How do you go about, picking the medium? And I'm just gonna slide over to the next one while we do that. How do you decide, at what point do you decide that, hey, I'm gonna work with pencil, I'm gonna work with ink, I'm gonna work with painting. I'm gonna do a performance piece that's also, documented, or, you've got so many different things. where do those all come from along your process? Are you kind of like planning them out, or do you have this idea and then kind of the medium follows whatever that theme and that concept is?
For me, it's like a sleight of hand type of thing where it's like what kind of has like its own presence to it. I think this is like on paper. So on paper, like things like feel like a little bit lighter and airier to me. I think canvas has like such a like strong tradition to it. Usually you kind of have to put it in a frame so it adds onto like that strength of it. With a wood panel that I kind of like use, I think it articulates domesticness a bit more, especially when you like leave the wood exposed and stuff. And also has like this lightness to it. So thinking about like, okay, what's going to communicate that theme right off the bat for me? And then after that, it's like, again, what tool what tool already has like this established presence to it. With this piece, um, I was kind of like moving in between like printmaking techniques, so like centering
Mm,
everything in like one specific part of the page, blocking things off with like color, and then moving from like printmaking to like this like watercolory, like painterly vibe, and it being kind of again like subconscious, cerebral, and it showcasing my hand. So seeing like the pencil marks, seeing the marks where the figure is like more rendered, seeing the marks where it's like paint strokes and stuff, and just going through like the whole like history of like me like working throughout the image. So it has like that story in itself to it.
mm. Very, very beautiful.
Yes.
Um, let's see. Now this one is just, whew, this is one of those that just
Yes.
knocks me out into the floor.
Thank you. I
And
guess
no one can see the scale obviously on this screen. So
yes. So this is 4 feet by 7 feet in terms of like scale. Talking about like the last piece, I wanted to show my hand, and I wanted my hand to also like tell a story. So it has like all the different ranges of like rendering. It also like shows like my palette for the actual painting. So up on the shoulder, you see like the drips and stuff, but those are like the colors I'm using. Everybody has like a different like painting like technique as to where your brush lands when it's not on like the actual painting. For this one, I
mhm.
wanted to like showcase it on the painting, letting it drip down. So having like that intimacy of like seeing what I was interested in, what I was doing. It also kind of like adds onto like the narrative because like it has like a little arch of like an angel wing, and it kind of like drips down all the way to like his leg, so it has like that general shape of like this angel wing, this intimacy of like showcasing my painting, and then the subject matter itself of like the figure, again thinking about like rest and like relaxation, and like where this figure was like he's wearing like this formal attire. So what is that communicating? And I guess I'm interested in that in like a lot of different ways, themes of like luxury. So what symbol communicates that? Sometimes it is with like a grill, other times it's with like that outfit being worn. And then what happens like after that? So like this figure isn't necessarily like this point, it's in like in a point of like contemplation, like it has a mood to it, it's kind of um dramatic and stuff. So just thinking about that, I think this one was like my biggest reference to like looking for Langston, since like that movie is like filled with like men in like suits and stuff, and then like ways of like relaxation, like the body itself has like this beautiful like desire like arch to it. So playing on the lines with that, and I guess thinking about for these last couple pieces, like how I was going to like to use color. So the first couple ones, there's bright color, and then these last couple ones, it's been like kind of muted, taken back. Because I was thinking about like absence and stuff. So I think these last couple pieces in my solo show, they were kind of like set around the winter. So in the winter, like the colors are drawn back, everything's kind of
Hmm.
like laid bare. So you see like the bones of a structure. So doing that with like this painting, seeing like the bones of like the palette, seeing like the painterly effect of like me mapping out like the outfit and leaving it not rendered, and then rendering the face and him kind of like looking outward. These pieces in my solo show, to communicate like that intimacy between like a body and like another body, I wanted it to be like a set of like couples. So there was 9 pieces all together, and then just to like throw it off a little bit, and then out of those yeah, out of those there was 4 couples. So every piece kind of like had another piece that was the same size, maybe not the same composition, but like the same
Mm.
material, um the same like if one had a panel, then the other had a panel, and I wanted them like looking across the room from each other. So again, in themes of like agency, like these pieces in my solo show were interested in what was across the room. They weren't thinking about the audience, like the idea
Wow.
of Black bodies and agency and like all this conversation on like, okay, this is like really important, like the audience needs to care about this. So literally giving them the agency, literally being like, I don't care about what this audience thinks. I'm really interested in that piece over there. I'm really interested in my counterpart and stuff. I'm really interested in that. And also they're not together. So like
Mm.
having that distance, having that level of like agency, was really important to me to like showcase. And that was like something I was mapping out when I was like doing my solo show and like considering the space itself.
That is amazing. Is this the counterpart?
Yes,
'Cause
so
I'm noticing the scale.
that's the counterpart. They were displayed across the room from each other. Like this, when I first had the idea for my solo show, these were the 2 pieces that I based everything around. So basically, a conversation between like 2 people, and just thinking about like that level of anticipation, what was going to happen next, displaying like the desire. So like the poses are like comfortable, like really relaxed, and they have like a level of like sensuality to them,
Mm.
but also they're expressing something where they are not up for consumption. They have like a level of agency, like a level of presence, and they're exploring like different like voids and stuff. Like I think this woman is like appearing into the can is not canvas. They are appearing into the panel, and the other figure, they're kind of like disappearing into the
Hmm.
panel. So they're coming into different levels of like immersion and like completion. One's coming in, like one's coming out. So they're kind of like being the end and the beginning. In my solo show, because it is couples, I am thinking about like opposites. So I'm thinking about like black and white, but also like that very nature of it. So um this has like a level of blackness to it. Other pieces in my show like had a different level of blackness to it. The other piece right before it, when compared to this piece, is black and white, but really that's like a bunch of like grays all together.
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
like opening up that definition of black and white, and then which one had the presence of like quote unquote like masculinity, which one didn't have that presence. So
Yeah.
calling back to like the clouds, like that has its like own presence. So and it's thinking about like masculinity, but there's like you don't see a man in it. So I'm trying to like open everything up, not define anything, have like these various like opposite forms, like looking at each other, having like this anticipation what's going to happen next. You as the viewer not getting that, like quite literally things are not being rendered, they're not made for you, they're not even looking at you, like they don't even
Hmm.
care about you. They're really invested into this conversation that we don't know what's going to happen next. And I think what's so sad about the solo show, now that it's gone. These pieces have like literally left the room. They're probably
And
like,
and they're all separated.
yeah, they're literally never gonna see each other again. I was like, not, I was like,
Never say never.
yeah, never, but it would probably be like, like, under like the circuit of everything, like things being collected, things being shipped off to another show. You,
Mm-hmm.
like that idea, it'll probably be a long time if they do see each other. So like literally thinking about like a breakup song and like literally like kind of by accident, I like never thought about like what it was going to be like to see them actually like leave from each other, like have these couples and actually like let them be separate. So that was like a bittersweet moment, but it was definitely like really cool to like think about this conversation and it all tying into like the idea of like absence, like felt like in 2020 when like so many people were going absent in the world, and like
Mm-hmm.
this history
Mm-hmm.
of like different eras like happening upon us, like different levels of like maturity that we were going into. So other things were like going away, like other levels like adolescence, and not just with the it was like, and it's still going on with the pandemic, that realization of like black people going away, whether that was
Mm-hmm.
through like with police violence, through like healthcare systems, through just anything, what that absence like looked like, what that felt like, and then just everyday life where people were getting older around you, and that nature of like what was going to happen next. So interested in that anticipation and making it like really neutral to where it could be expansive into something that you really wanted or something that you wanted to run away from, and whether you're going to get it or not, and just leaving it at that moment.
That is amazing. I'm gonna read. Marilee says, "Oh my gosh, this portrait! I do not have words. Amazing, soulful, beautiful."
Thank
I
you.
agree. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Um, we are running short on time. I don't know if there's any Q&As. I'm not able to see while I'm sharing the screen. But if you have any questions, please drop them in there. You can also drop them in, and I won't be formal. You can drop them into the chat, and I will ask them from there. I definitely wanted to. I would have felt really awful if we didn't go through this piece because I want to know all about it.
Everybody like this is also from the solo show. So this is also a piece where everybody had like a question with. And baby, I don't know either. Like it is like one of those like subconscious things that like came about, where it was like, okay, this is like really cerebral, this is like really like something where I can like see like the little synapses that's going on in my head, but it's kind of like harder for me to articulate. I think in general I am thinking about like a level of like care and stuff. I'm thinking about like this, for me, this figure starts off with like the male figure like in this area of like contemplation. They have on like that formal suit, so like all these people are
And a
kind of,
mask.
yes, and mass. So it's like having like a setting, having like a specific place and time, like a level of like contemplation with that presence, with that motion that he's doing. There is like this foliage that's like right on his back as like a collage element. It's like hard to kind of like understanding like what it actually is. Some people like think it's like a shape of like an animal, like a bird or something. This was specifically from like a bunch of like flowers I used beforehand in like another work, and like I'm thinking about like how can I like reuse this, so placing it on there. So like those flowers being kind of like repurposed, and specifically on his back, kind of like imitating like a wing. So again, calling back to like these wings that like these figures are having, but not like being like subtle with it. Like they're kind of like hidden. Like if I guess if you ever see like an angel in person, you wouldn't know. Like there's a way to like
Mm.
disguise that type of effect. And like that composition of that wing being like arched up with like the Nina Simone picture, but also like these picture of like these women also coming in for like comfort and like care. I think with Nina Simone, it kind of like realizes like the music I was listening to around that time, something like real dramatic and moody and like about like love and like getting these things that you want, or getting these things that you thought you couldn't get, stuff like that, with real big dramatic sounds, vocals to it, really placing it into that mood. She's also like peering out at you. So she's having
Mm-hmm.
like this moment of appearing into the thing, coming out of that abyss. Again, there's a bunch of different like blacks happening all at once here. So it being like universal, where you can like teeter between like what this color is doing, what this color is doing. Are these colors like all the same? So having like that universal presence to it. And just I guess these ideas of like care, but also like this level of like, I guess, drama to it, where it doesn't necessarily like feel like a happy image. And maybe to a certain extent, them kind of like knowing something before you even like realize it. Like Nina Simone's gaze, like peering out at you, like she can kind of tell what's going on before you even like know what's going on. And I think I've always been interested in like communicating that, like and more so now, having like these expressions where whether it's good or bad, they kind of like know the complete story before you do, and you're just kind of on the ride for it all. So that's where I was coming from with this piece. And again, it's like really subconscious, and it's so funny. Like sometimes when I look at it, I know exactly what it means to me, and it's also like I don't know how well I can explain it all at the same time. And also, it's drawing upon what I did early in the pandemic with the art shapes. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
coming back to that universal nature of it, and then placing it all down together and trying to create like a sense of like comfort in like this expansive universal abyss that is looking at you.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. And it's all looking back at us or not looking at us and not, you were talking earlier about this, the gaze and the agency and you know, your work is thinking about so many of the contemporary issues that artists are grappling with. Especially Black artists of, who gets to look at us and control us, or who does not have access to us at all. And I love that little bit of mystery that comes up in your work of like, yeah, we don't know what's going on, but it's almost like you said it earlier. It's not really for us to know. We're not
Yeah.
really concerned about us. Um, the figures are going about their lives and doing their thing, and I love that there's a little bit of mystery and codedness in it, but then also the time span of it, seeing the Nina Simone live at Montreux 1976, and then juxtaposed with the figure with the mask that will forever be this moment, right? Everyone will know that this was the 2020s. um and these figures that almost reminds me of like, I don't know what they're doing, like they're the witnesses almost of what's happening. Beautiful, beautiful piece. I'm gonna say what we've got a couple comments. Someone says, beautiful work, expressions. It was a privilege to be here. Afua Carol Yates says, wonderful description of the art pieces that really enhance the understanding of each piece and what it means to the artist. Thank you so much, everyone, for all of your comments. We are towards the end of it, but I would love to hear from you. What's next for you? Do you have any other residencies lined up? Any other shows? Where can we see your work in real life?
Yeah. So many things are coming up. That I'm like trying to figure out myself. So many emails to attend to. So definitely look out for me. I think the next thing I'm going to do will be a mural project that's with Adult Swim and Living Walls Atlanta. So that would be in the city of Atlanta here. That will probably be happening really soon. So expect updates on that. And I think you'll be able to like see more of my work in like some group exhibitions later on. I just ended a group exhibition with Serious Art up in New York. Um, that was,
Serious, that's with a C, right?
yes.
Okay.
So CEREUS, and so that
Hmm.
was in New York, the NYC Culture Club. I think that came down sometime early this month or last month. But I am making art, making as much as art as I can, try to get it out to many places as possible. So definitely, you all can keep updated with me, primarily through my Instagram, which is my name and then dot Stefan Stefan. And I will keep you updated. I haven't posted in a minute,
You
but
have it.
yeah, I'm
So,
like,
I'm assuming you've been busy.
yeah, I'm like, wow, I don't even know if I've been busy, but
You have.
it's kind of like hard to like figure out like that in the moment. But I am excited for what's going to happen next. There's a lot of more artwork I want to show. There's a lot of more ideas I'm like thinking about since I've like been able to like put all these things out here. So I don't know, and I'm excited. You know, I mean, as you as well, Demetri, like our future is so bright. So it's just like a moment in time before we really start showcasing what's next.
Yes, I totally agree. I hope your work can come out to the West Coast sometime
Yeah,
very soon. I'm like, I'll try to like call that forward.
definitely, definitely. I want to get out there. So I am really interested in like what's going on in the West Coast. So any excuse for really good out there. Like there's
Yeah,
some,
right.
yeah, there's some artists I love out there. I love connecting with you, seeing your practice itself online. So to see it in person, to exhibit in the West Coast, I'm down with it, and I'm sure it'll happen like sooner than later.
Yeah, well, we're putting it out there. Someone who has the ability to make that come true really quickly is out there. So that's awesome. Today, put your Instagram, your website, and then also tag Serious Art and NYC Culture Club in the chat for folks. And with that, this has been wonderful. I love being able to spend this time with you, learning about your practice and your influences. And it's just one of those things where it's like, with the moment that I saw your work, I loved it immediately. There's I don't know how to explain it. There's a something to the work that immediately draws you in, and then to hear what you're thinking, beyond what I can see, and then also to be able to kind of see the way that everything weaves into each other, and even just thinking about the arch and how you are really investigating it through multiple mediums, multiple different processes, and then it circled right back. It's really, really inspiring to see. Lucoriza says, great conversation. Of course, amazing art. Yes. And Sade agrees with you. Yes. We can't wait to see more. So we will all be watching you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for taking the time with us today. It's been beautiful. And I hope I see you soon in
Yes.
real life, outside of the screen.
Yeah, yeah. Demetri link up. That's what I'm looking forward to.
That's right. That's right. All right, Demetri Burke, have a beautiful night. And I hope to see you really soon.